The price of resistance. The afternoon sun hung low and bloody over the twisted landscape as they rode north toward Old Ravenhold. Edric's hands gripped the reins with white-knuckled force, less from controlling his Urith destrier than from maintaining control over himself. The fragment in his chest hadn't stopped pulsing since the weeping stones. Each beat synchronized with his heart, a rhythm that felt increasingly foreign, as if something else was learning to breathe with his lungs, think with his mind. The green light beneath his skin had faded to a faint glow, visible only when shadows fell across his chest, but Edric could feel it there, awake, aware, and patient. "We should stop," Rose said from his left, her chestnut courser matching pace with his mount. "You need rest. We're 2 hours from Old Ravenhold." Edric's voice came out rougher than intended. "If we stop now, if we don't stop, you'll collapse before we reach it." Rose's tone brooked no argument. "I've watched you sway in the saddle 3 times in the last hour. Don't pretend I haven't." Edric wanted to argue, but exhaustion weighted his limbs like iron chains. The battle at the Weeping Stones had drained him in ways that went beyond physical fatigue. Each time he'd struck with the sealing blade, severing corrupted flesh and breaking ritual circles, he'd felt the fragment in his chest surge in response, feeding on the blade's power, growing stronger even as he wielded it to fight the Devourer's servants. The paradox was slowly killing him, or transforming him. He wasn't sure which was worse. "There," Illyria called from the front, pointing to a rocky outcropping that offered shelter from the wind and a clear view of the surrounding terrain. "Defensible position. We can see anything approaching from 3 directions." Shamaz rode up beside Edric, his old eyes sharp with concern beneath his weathered brow. "The girl speaks wisdom, young king. Your body needs rest, but more importantly, your will needs fortification. The fragment tests you constantly now. I can see it in your eyes, the moments when you're not entirely present." Edric's jaw tightened. "I'm in control. For now," Shamaz agreed quietly. "But control is not infinite. It's a resource that depletes with use, like strength or courage. You've been resisting since Thornhaven. That's nearly 2 days of constant vigilance against something that never tires, never sleeps, and knows you better than you know yourself." The word struck deeper than Edric wanted to admit. He'd felt it during the ride, moments where his thoughts seemed to echo before he'd fully formed them, where impulses rose that felt like his own but carried an undertone of something ancient and hungry. The fragment was learning him, mapping the contours of his mind and will. 1 hour, he conceded finally. "Then we ride for Old Ravenhold." They made camp in the shelter of the outcropping as the sun descended toward the horizon. The Urith horses stamped and snorted, their supernatural senses detecting corruption in the air that human noses couldn't yet smell. Illyria moved through the perimeter with practiced efficiency, setting small warning charms, bits of string and stone that would rattle if disturbed, while Rose built a small fire from deadwood that still held some memory of life before the corruption spread. Shamaz prepared tea from his dwindling supplies, adding herbs that Edric recognized, valerian for calm, ginseng for clarity, and something darker that smelled of earth and old roots. "Drink," the healer commanded, pressing the warm cup into Edric's hands. "It will help fortify your mind against intrusion." Edric drank, tasting bitter herbs and something else, a faint metallic tang that made the fragment in his chest pulse once sharply before subsiding. "What was that?" "Silverleaf," Shamaz said quietly. "Rare and dangerous. In large doses, it's poison. In small amounts, it creates resistance to certain influences. The Devourer's touch is one such influence." "You should have told me you had this." Edric's voice carried an edge of accusation. "I have very little, and it loses potency quickly once prepared. I've been saving it for when you'd need it most." Shamaz settled beside the fire, his joints creaking. "Old Ravenhold is different from Thornhaven and the Weeping Stones. The catacombs there go deep, deeper than any map shows. The cultists chose it for a reason." "What reason?" Rose asked, sharpening her long sword with methodical strokes. "Old Ravenhold was built on a convergence point," Illyria said, returning from her perimeter check. "My grandmother told me stories. 3 ley lines meet beneath the fortress, channels of natural power that flow through the earth like rivers. The ancient kings used such places to amplify their magic." And now the cultists use them to amplify their rituals. Edric finished grimly. He could feel it even from here. A pull toward the north, subtle but insistent, like a fishhook lodged beneath his ribs. The fragment wanted to go to Old Ravenhold. It wanted to be there when the ritual reached its peak. "How many cultists?" Rose asked Illyria. "Unknown. The catacombs can hold hundreds if they're using the full complex. But they won't all be fighters. Most will be chanters, maintaining the ritual structure." Illyria's expression was grim. "The problem isn't the numbers, it's the layout. The catacombs are a maze. Dozens of passages, multiple levels, and we don't know where the ritual chamber is located." "The fragment knows," Edric said quietly. All three of his companions turned to look at him. "I can feel it pulling toward the north. When we get closer, it will pull harder. It wants to be there." "Then we use that," Rose said after a moment. "You follow the pull. It leads us straight to the ritual chamber." "And straight into whatever trap they've prepared," Shamaz added. "They know you're coming, Edric. The survivors from Thornhaven warned them. The cultists who fled the Weeping Stones confirmed it. By now, every ritual site in the kingdom knows that Aldrich's last descendant carries the sealing blade and the Devourer's heart." Silence fell over the group, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the distant cry of something that might have been a crow but sounded wrong, too sharp, too knowing. "They want me there," Edric said finally. "The Devourer wants me at these ritual sites. That's why the corrupted creatures haven't attacked us in force. That's why the survivors were allowed to flee and warn the others. It's all deliberate." "A trap," Illyria confirmed. "No." Edric shook his head slowly, feeling the weight of understanding settle over him like a shroud. "Not a trap, an invitation. The Devourer isn't trying to capture me or kill me. It's trying to bring me close enough to complete the reunification. Every ritual site we attack, every time I use the sealing blade, every moment I spend near the corruption, it's all bringing the fragments closer together." Rose's hand moved unconsciously to her sword hilt. "Then we find another way. We send scouts to map the catacombs, plan an assault that doesn't require you to." "There is no time," Edric interrupted gently. "Shamaz, how long do we have? Truly?" The old healer stared into the fire for a long moment before answering. The Weeping Stones ritual was interrupted, but not before significant power was channeled. The fragments that fled are still out there, still being called. If I had to guess... He paused, choosing his words carefully. 2 days, perhaps 3. Then the seals fail completely, and the Devourer breaks free whether the fragments are reunited or not. "And if the fragments do reunite?" Illyria asked. "Then it breaks free immediately, at full strength, in a body that can walk the world without restriction." Shamaz's voice was hollow. "My body," Edric said quietly. None of them contradicted him. The sun touched the horizon, painting the corrupted landscape in shades of blood and shadow. Edric felt the fragment pulse again, stronger this time, and with it came a whisper in his own voice. "Soon, soon we are whole, soon we are free." He forced the thought away, but it left an oily residue in his mind, a sensation of something foreign that had touched him and left its mark. "I need to tell you something," Edric said, his voice cutting through the gathering darkness. "All of you, in case I don't get the chance later." Rose's expression hardened. "Don't. Listen." Edric met each of their eyes in turn. "If the fragment takes control, if I become the vessel the Devourer needs, you cannot hesitate. Rose, you promised me at the Weeping Stones. I'm holding you to that promise." "I know what I promised," Rose said, her voice tight, "but there's more." Edric reached beneath his breastplate and withdrew the amulet, its surface still warm against his skin. "Shamaz, you said the amulet symbols are changing in response to the sealing blade, that they might be showing us another way. Elder Ashara believes so. Yes. Then study them. All of you. If I fall, if the fragment wins, the amulet might hold the key to stopping what comes next." He removed the leather cord from around his neck and held it out. "Take it. Keep it safe." "No." Rose's voice was flat, final. "You keep it. You're not falling. You're not becoming that thing's vessel. We're going to Old Ravenhold. We're going to break that ritual, and then we're going to the Forsaken Lake to end this permanently." "Rose." I said no. She stood abruptly, her shadow long and sharp in the firelight. "I didn't pull you out of Kirkwall's ruins when we were children, just to watch you give up now. I didn't train beside you for 15 years, didn't follow you through corrupted forests and ancient battlefields. Didn't promise to be your executioner if necessary, just to let you surrender before the final fight. Edric opened his mouth to respond, but Rose wasn't finished. You want to prepare us for your death? Fine, but prepare yourself for survival too, because that's what we're going to do. All four of us. We're going to survive this and we're going to win. And when it's over, you're going to have to figure out how to be a king in a kingdom that isn't fighting for its life. Her voice cracked slightly on the last words. So keep the damned amulet. You're going to need it. Silence stretched between them, heavy with emotion and unspoken fears. Finally, Edric slipped the amulet back around his neck, feeling its warmth settle against his chest, opposite the cold pulse of the fragment. Thank you, he said quietly. Rose nodded once, sharply, then turned away to check the horses. Illyria broke the tension with characteristic practicality. We should rest in shifts, 2 hours each. Edric first. You need the sleep most. I'll take first watch. I'll take second, Shamaz said. My old bones don't need as much rest as they once did. Rose returned from the horses. Third watch is mine. Edric takes fourth if we're still here. The arrangements were made with the efficiency of long practice. Edric settled against the rocky outcropping, his body heavy with exhaustion that went beyond the physical. The sealing blade lay across his lap, its weight both comfort and burden. As his eyes grew heavy, he felt the fragment pulse again, softer now, almost gentle. And with it came a whisper that might have been his own thought, or might have been something else entirely. You cannot win. You can only choose how you lose. Edric's hand tightened on the sealing blade's hilt as sleep dragged him down into darkness. In his dreams, he stood in the catacombs of Old Ravenhold, surrounded by chanting cultists whose faces were his own. And at the center of the ritual chamber, seated on a throne of bones and shadow, something waited that wore his face and spoke with his voice but had eyes that burned with green fire. Come, it said. Come home. Edric woke with a gasp 2 hours later when Illyria touched his shoulder for the watch change. His chest burned where the fragment pulsed, and for a moment, just a moment, he could have sworn he heard laughter echoing from the direction of Old Ravenhold. Laughter that sounded exactly like his own.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.